Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and finding out your local grocery store isn't opening. Not for a holiday, not for a long weekend, for a full month. What would you actually put on the table tonight? What about next week? What about 2 weeks from now when the freezer's empty and the last can of soup is gone? For most people, that question is genuinely frightening because most households only have about 72 hours of usable food in the house at any given time. 72 hours. That's the entire gap between normal life and real hunger for the average family. A hurricane, an earthquake, a grid failure, it doesn't take much to expose just how thin that margin really is. But here's the good news. Building real food security doesn't require a bunker, a survivalist mindset, or thousands of dollars you don't have lying around. It comes down to one boring, unglamorous habit: building a pantry that still works when everything else stops. And the backbone of that pantry is a category of food most people completely overlook: powdered foods. Ingredients so stable they can sit on a shelf for decades and still be good. In this video, we're breaking down the 10 essential powdered foods worth having in your home, the storage mistakes that quietly ruin even a well-built pantry, and simple, practical ways to actually cook with these ingredients, so they're not just sitting in a bucket collecting dust for the next 20 years. Welcome to Food Decider. If you're into practical, no-nonsense preparedness content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like this video before we get into it. It really helps the channel grow. Let's get started. Let's talk about why the pantry you already have is nowhere near as safe as you think it is. Most people believe they're prepared because there's a couple of cans of soup in the cabinet and a half-used bag of rice somewhere in the back. That's not a preparedness plan. That's a convenience plan, and convenience and resilience are two very different things. Convenience depends on your refrigerator, and your refrigerator is quite possibly the single biggest point of failure in your entire kitchen. The second the power goes out, a countdown clock starts. Within 24 to 48 hours, your meat, your dairy, your fresh produce, all of it starts crossing the line from food into waste. It doesn't matter how full your fridge was, cold air can't save you once the electricity is gone. Now, you might be thinking, that's fine, I've got canned goods for that. And to be fair, canned food is a solid start, but even canned goods have a shelf life that people overestimate. Realistically, you're looking at 1 to 3 years before the taste and nutrition start to noticeably decline. That's not the 20 or 30-year buffer people assume they're getting. And dry goods like rice and pasta come with a hidden catch that a lot of people forget about entirely. They need water, not just any water, but clean water, and a fair amount of it to actually become edible. In a real crisis, clean water might be the one resource you're short on. This is exactly the gap that powdered foods fill. The entire reason food spoils is moisture. Bacteria, mold, decay, all of it needs water to thrive. So when you strip the moisture out of a food and remove it almost entirely, you're not just slowing down spoilage, you're hitting pause on it. That's the whole secret. Powdered foods don't need refrigeration, they're incredibly nutrient-dense for their weight, and depending on the food, they can remain stable for 20 to 30 years in proper storage. So now the real question is, which powdered foods are actually worth stocking? Let's go through the 10 that matter most. First up is powdered eggs, and honestly, this is your protein anchor. Protein isn't optional. Your body needs it for muscle maintenance, immune function, and even cognitive performance. Fresh eggs last a few weeks at best. Powdered eggs can last up to 30 years. One serving gives you a complete amino acid profile along with healthy fats, and beyond just scrambling them for breakfast, they're a key binding ingredient for baking, meaning pancakes, muffins, and bread are all still possible even when the store shelves are bare. Next is powdered milk, which has quietly been a pantry staple for over 100 years for good reason. It delivers calcium, vitamin D, and protein in a form that lasts for years without refrigeration. Yes, reconstituted milk tastes a little different from the fresh version, but in cooking, that difference basically disappears. It's the base for cream soups, white sauces, oatmeal, and mashed potatoes. If you've got kids in the house, this one isn't optional, it's essential. Then there's whey protein. People tend to associate it with gym culture, but it's actually a shelf-stable byproduct of milk that, stored properly, holds up for around 20 years. In high-stress situations, your body's protein demands go up, not down, and whey lets you meet that demand fast, mixed into water, stirred into porridge, or folded quietly into baked goods as a hidden protein boost. Number 4 is powdered vegetables, and this might be the most underrated item on the entire list. When fresh produce disappears from your diet, you're not just missing out on flavor, you're opening the door to real problems like scurvy and a weakened immune system. Powdered spinach, kale, carrots, and tomatoes hold on to the bulk of their vitamins and minerals, and you can stir them straight into soups, stews, or sauces so your meals aren't just empty, refined carbohydrates. Fifth is powdered fruit. Survival isn't always about hitting a calorie number. Morale matters. Powdered strawberries, blueberries, and mangoes give you natural sugar for quick energy, plus a flavor that actually makes emergency meals enjoyable instead of bleak.
They add depth to granola and oatmeal, and they deliver vitamin C and potassium without any risk of rotting in your fridge. Sixth on the list is powdered peanut butter. Regular peanut butter eventually turns rancid because of its high oil content. That's just chemistry. Powdered peanut butter has most of that oil pressed out, leaving behind a stable, high-protein powder with a much longer shelf life. It's also incredibly lightweight, which makes it perfect for a bug-out bag or hiking pack, and a little water brings it right back to a familiar, spreadable texture. Seventh is powdered soup. In a crisis, warmth and familiarity aren't luxuries, they're survival tools for your mental state. A bowl of something like tomato basil or chicken noodle can provide real psychological comfort. Powdered soups also work as a base you can build on. Throw in some powdered vegetables or a scoop of whey protein, and you've turned a simple mix into a genuinely complete hot meal in minutes. Eighth is powdered cheese, and don't underestimate this one. Bland food leads to something called appetite fatigue, where people actually start eating less simply because the food isn't appealing anymore. Good quality powdered cheese lasts 10 to 15 years and instantly transforms plain rice, pasta, or potatoes into something people are actually excited to eat. In a long-term storage situation, that's a massive quality of life difference. Ninth is chickpea flour, sometimes called besan or gram flour. This one's been a staple in Mediterranean and Indian cooking for centuries, and it's packed with fiber and protein. You can use it to make flatbreads, savory pancakes, or even swap it in as an egg replacement in baking. It's naturally gluten-free, and it keeps you fuller for longer. And finally, number 10, potato flour, the quiet multitasker of the group. Made from whole potatoes that are cooked and dried, it's a natural thickener for gravies and stews, and it helps baked goods hold onto moisture, giving you softer bread. It's also versatile enough to turn into gnocchi, dumplings, or a thick, hearty soup base. Those are your 10, but having the right foods means nothing if you store them the wrong way, so let's fix that next. Knowing what to buy is honestly only half the job. If these powders aren't stored correctly, they will fail you exactly when you need them most. There are 3 enemies working against your pantry at all times. The first is moisture, and it's public enemy number 1. Even a small amount of humidity sneaking into a container can trigger mold or bacterial growth, undoing years of shelf life in a matter of weeks. The second is heat. High temperatures speed up the breakdown of nutrients and flavor. This means garages, attics, and anywhere near a water heater are the worst possible places to keep your stockpile, even though they're often the most convenient. The third is light. UV exposure quietly degrades vitamins and oils over time, so opaque containers or a dark storage room aren't optional extras. They're part of doing this correctly. The gold standard for long-term storage is Mylar bags combined with oxygen absorbers, heat-sealed and placed inside food-grade 5-gallon buckets. For food you're rotating through regularly, mason jars with a tight seal work well. And no matter what container you use, follow the first-in, first-out rule. Date everything and always use your oldest stock first. Now, here's something people miss constantly. A pantry full of food you've never actually cooked with isn't a safety net, it's just a collection of boxes taking up space. The time to figure out how these ingredients taste and behave is now, while the stakes are 0, not during an actual emergency. For breakfast, try what you could call a decade breakfast. Reconstitute your powdered eggs, mix in powdered spinach and tomato, and you've got a full vegetable scramble. For a quick lunch, a shelf-stable smoothie made from whey protein, powdered fruit, and powdered peanut butter gives you a dense hit of macros in about 2 minutes flat. For dinner, build what you could call a building block soup. Start with a powdered soup base, thicken it up with chickpea flour, and finish it off with powdered cheese for flavor. And if you want bread on the side, mix chickpea and potato flour with water and a bit of powdered egg, then fry it up into a simple, no-yeast flatbread. At the end of the day, food preparedness gets a bad reputation. People picture tinfoil hats and paranoia, but really it's just basic responsibility. Whether you're a hiker who wants lightweight, dense nutrition, a busy professional who can't always make it to the store, or a parent living somewhere hurricanes are a real threat, this kind of pantry gives you a genuine safety net. Building a stockpile like this isn't about living in fear of what might happen. It's about knowing that no matter what happens outside your front door, the people counting on you are going to eat. 10 ingredients stored the right way is the difference between vulnerability and real security. If this helped you rethink what's actually in your pantry, hit like, subscribe to Food Decider for more videos like this one, and let us know in the comments which of these 10 powdered foods you're adding to your stockpile first.